The heart wants what it wants when it wants it. Hello there, welcome back to the Jean Made channel. My name is Paula Jean, and today I am sharing a completely different project than I thought I was going to. I thought I was going to be doing a refashioning video, but I decided to indulge a little bit of creative impulse, and so that's what I'm sharing with you today. Before I get too far into it, what I am wearing is the camas blouse pattern by Thread Theory. I love this pattern. I particularly love the detail on the shoulder. It has a little bit of gathering here and it has kind of an epaulette, and it's made out of a kind of a dark teal, I guess, bamboo jersey, and I made this a few years ago. I'll leave the pattern link down below. So the little creative project that I've been working on for the last couple of weeks intermittently is a kind of a modern take on a vintage lingerie set, and part of the inspiration was a pattern that I got a few years ago now, and it is Simplicity 8510, and it's this really nice little 1930s tap pant and bra set. And I don't know how it came across my radar, but at the time I was looking for this pattern, it was out of print, and I ended up picking this up on eBay, I think. If it is back in print, I'll leave that link down below. One of the things that I loved were the tap pants, or French knickers, whatever you call them. I call them tap pants. And I really loved both of the options, actually. So one has this V yoke, and it's a V yoke in the front and the back, and the other one is just simpler, and it just has bias binding to finish the waistband. I particularly love the fact that these do not have elastic. I'm really finicky about how elastic sits around my waist, and I really like that these are fitted and clean finished around the waist, so that's what kind of turned me on to that. And I kind of thought that the bra design was neat too. When I looked a little bit further at the bra pattern, I thought I am probably going to have to do a whole boatload of adjustments to get that to fit me, and I kind of wondered whether I would actually wear it as a bra. So what I did for the bra portion is actually the Sahaara Bra, and if you've been on my channel for a while, you know I did an in-depth video of this pattern because I really, really love it. I'll leave that video link down below, but I thought it had like kind of some of the elements that I was going for, but be something that I was going to wear. And then the last part of the set is just a little pair of undies, for which I used the Emerald Erin Sews pattern, the Friday French cuts, which is a really lovely pattern. It comes in 4 different views. 2 of them are Y-back, which are the ones that I made, and then 2 of them are a regular bikini bottom back. And the great thing about this pattern is it's one of the only underwear patterns that I know of anyway that allows you to use some non-stretch fabric in it. So the front panel you can use non-stretch fabric. So this was part of the inspiration, was this pattern. And then a few months ago, I also saw a beautiful post by Liz of Our Lady of Perpetual Fitting, which is her Instagram handle, which I also love. She is a sewist for film and television, for costumes, and also an avid bra maker. And she shared on her Instagram page a gorgeous vintage inspired set that she made for the actress Dagmara Dominchuk, who has a role on the Apple Plus series Hello Tomorrow, which it has Billy Crudup in it, and it's kind of a retro futuristic Jetsons meets Death of a Salesman kind of a storyline. I don't know if that's how they pitched it, but that's kind of my takeaway from it. Really kind of a cool show, and she made this beautiful bra and tap pant set, and it reminded me of how much I wanted to make this for myself. I also decided to dive in, not only because the timing was right for the materials I had acquired over time, but I know that I can fall into the trap of really leaning into the functional, utilitarian, usefulness of the craft of sewing, which is why a lot of us do it. It is so useful, and especially if you've decided to make all your own clothes or some of your own clothes, that's the purpose that it serves. I know that I can easily forget for myself that this is also a creative practice. So I find myself doing what some of us call shoulding all over myself, which is I should only make the things that I absolutely need. I should only make the things that I'm going to wear a lot. I should. And sometimes I get these ideas in my head that I just want to make happen for a creative purpose. And I am absolutely going to wear this set. But as it was percolating in my brain, I was thinking like, oh, it's just an indulgence. Oh, I shouldn't do that. But then again, I think like, if painters are always thinking, well, what wall am I going to hang this on? They probably wouldn't paint very much. So I'm trying to have more of a balance in that, and that's part of the reason that I decided to indulge in this. So the fabrics that I used were a lingerie satin that I got from Tailor Made Shop. That's the midnight blue satin that is, everywhere in this set. And it's got a little bit of lycra in it, not very much. I would call it more give than stretch that it has. And all of the trimmings were this beautiful copper color that Madeline Intimates had carried over on her website maybe last year, 2 years ago. And then for the tap pants, I had this very serendipitous acquisition a few months back, one of the times I was visiting my parents, and my mom had this beautiful copper satin twill in her stash. Only maybe half a yard of it. It was just enough to get these tap pants out of it. I also find this color combination kind of takes me back a little bit. It reminds me of like vintage wallpaper or vintage posters of like the 30s, 40s, a little bit of 50s, a little bit maybe. It's just a really rich color combination that I feel works for this set. So I'll start with the undies. Like I said, these are the Emerald Erin Sews Friday French cuts, and they are French cut. They sit very high on the hip. The leg line is very high. I find them very comfortable. It comes together really, really quickly, and so highly recommend that. I think they go up to a hip of 59 inches. The tap pants now. So like I said, this is a clean finished waistband, and so I made the version with the yoke, and it has a yoke in the front and the back. And it's really simple though, because it's not a separate yoke that you have to attach to make this. It's really just a facing that instead of sewing it right sides together and folding it to the inside, it's a V-shaped facing that you sew right side to wrong side, and then you flip it over and you just top stitch it down on the front. And same finish on the back. So if I open that up, you can see on the inside, the only evidence that there is any kind of a yoke is this top stitching line. And then the opening, in the instructions, it's meant to have buttonholes here on the waist and functional buttons. Because I was dealing with two fairly substantial fabrics, so this satin is kind of like Duoplex. It's very, very robust. It's very difficult to get a needle through. And I ended up using my purple tip needles. If you have a Janome machine, you know that purple tip needles have this, kind of special magic spell on them or something. If you can't get a needle through a fabric, try your purple tip needle and it'll probably work. So that's what I use on this fabric. But because I was dealing with that and it is layered on top of this fairly substantial satin twill, I decided to just apply the buttons as a decorative element. And I found these buttons at Joann. I just thought they were, the color matched perfectly, and I thought they kind of had a bit of a vintage vibe to them. And then I just did sew-on snaps on the side openings, which are a continuous lap placket. So similar to a continuous lap that you would do on a sleeve placket. I did the extra step of sewing it at the fold line there. That's just so that it would lay a little bit flatter. Now, I have to admit that one of my least favorite things about sewing is sew-on snaps. I just find it so tedious. It was quite tedious to do on this very difficult to pierce fabric. And, you know, they're not very pretty. They're very functional, but I've always hated them. So if anybody has a trick or a mantra or something to say while you're doing this that makes it less miserable, please let me know in the comments. But anyway, I did go ahead and apply snaps, and then I did one side, the full opening, so I have that there. And because I only really need one side to open to get these on properly, I did do the snaps at the waist on the other side, but then I just sewed up that little, a little bit of the placket there. And I could have gotten away with only doing a placket on one side, but I also did want to balance like the weight and the fabric thickness on both sides. And then the satin twill was actually, it was easy to work with, but oh my God, did it fray. So after I cut the pieces out, and it's got a beautiful weight and drape, but because it has such a nice drape and it's a twill and it was satin and it was so prone to fraying, I decided to, for all 4 pieces of it, I stay stitched around every pattern piece, and then I also did a narrow serge around every single piece before I even started putting it together, and that seemed to keep the fray monsters at bay, and they finished up really nicely, and they're super comfortable. I love how they sit on the body. Now for the bra, I did the long line version of the Sahaara, and I also made it a permanent crossback. I end up wearing a lot of styles that are kind of cut high on the shoulder or that are racer back, and I've kind of always wanted just a permanent racer back bra. I make a lot of my bras convertible, which is great theoretically, but then I end up getting lazy about like changing the length of the elastic and everything. So I've kind of always wanted something that's just a dedicated bra that I can wear under those styles. But this also serves a functional purpose because I did a long line and because I ended up using this non-stretch, or low stretch, I should say, low stretch satin on the back band. And I'm actually going to take this off, Betty, and show you on the table a couple of little changes that I made to the construction of the pattern. So as I said, I made the long line version, and then I finished it with this wide fold over elastic, and I don't know who else carries it, but Madeline does tend to carry this really nice wide fold over elastic that just makes a really soft and pretty finish on this. And then I used the remnants that I had from the strap elastic, and this is kind of a more decorative type of strap elastic that has a bit of a grosgrain ribbon finish, and then it has these loops on either side. So it's a little prettier than some other strap elastic, but I had some left over, and I thought it would be really nice to just do a little decorative version of that around here, and it also gives a little bit more stability as well. And then I don't know if I mentioned before, but I really liked these buttons, so I put those on the bra as well. And then I thought it would be nice to continue the fabric on the back band if possible. So I ended up actually using the back band piece as is. I usually need to shorten it a little bit when I'm using stretch mesh on the back, but I wanted to see if this fabric with just its little bit of give, if I lengthened it or left it as long as the original piece, to see if that would give me what I needed for the back band. And when I did the muslin of it, it worked, and I was so excited. So I did that. I did line it with some stretch mesh just so that I can take advantage of the little bit of give that does have. The one thing I found is that when I made the muslin, I had a 4-hook closure that I had just pinned on to test the fit. And that was enough support from the side. It kind of brought it in enough for me to feel supported. But when I needed to cut this lower to accommodate the matching closure that I had, I found that it was a little bit loose up here, so I probably should have taken that in by about 3/8 of an inch on each side to give it more tension. But what the cross strap does is it actually makes up for that, and so because it pulls across diagonally, it gives me a little bit more tension in the back, and that kind of took care of that problem. Now, the other thing I did differently was the straps. So this was 1/2 inch strap elastic, and I wanted it to be a little bit more robust. So for this strap, I just wanted a little peak of the blue, and I decided to also pad it. So what I did was I took the blue satin and I made basically a tube that would be finished 5/8 of an inch. And then I cut a little strip of bra foam and I put that inside of it so that when I stitched the elastic on top of it, that becomes then a solid strap. And then it continues down, and after the ring, I use that same 1/2 inch elastic just on its own so that I have some stretch and I have some adjustability there for if that stretches out. So this ended up being super comfortable. I love how it looks, and yeah, I really like the way that this whole thing turned out. So that is my 3-piece vintage inspired lingerie set. I hope that you are exercising your creative muscles as well, especially before we get into like the throes of the holiday season and we all are scrambling to sew up various things for gifts and decorations and stuff like that. So I hope you're having a wonderful week, a great start to your November, and I will see you next time.